The restaurant is closed, loser. Get lost. As soon as David Anderson saw me, he bursted out laughing and spat those words out. I had arrived a little early, so this restaurant hadn't even opened yet, and there's no way David didn't know that. Clearly, he didn't want me to participate. Got it. I'm leaving. I kept a smile to myself, not showing it on my face, and decided to follow David's instructions obediently. David seemed a bit surprised at how easily I backed down, but quickly sneered, "What a waste of time. Get lost now." He had no idea what was coming his way. Imagining the panicked look on David's face in the future, I decided to head home quietly for now. I'm Thomas Davis. I joined a regional beverage company straight out of high school and have been in sales ever since. When I first joined, there weren't any other high school grads around, and I felt out of place, but now I'm in my 40s. Now, I warmly welcome the new hires every year. Sales wasn't the department I hoped for. The company assigned me there, and honestly, I struggled with it. I'm not pushy and am sensitive to changes in people's moods. So if I even a hint of reluctance, I can't push the product any further. If I can tell the other person is interested, I'm in luck because I enjoy deep communication and feel at ease. Actually, my sales success rate hasn't improved much over the years, and I've always wanted to work in a different department. But surprisingly, my evaluations have been positive. I often hear things like, "Thomas, we got a call from the client. They said you're trustworthy and thorough in explaining the products, and they're considering moving forward." While there are many rejections, the clients I do connect with are happy, and we often maintain long-term relationships. So maybe my approach isn't entirely wrong. Of course, I can't be satisfied with the current situation. I've been in this field for 20 years and want to keep improving my numbers. Thomas, did you hear? We're getting a new manager next week. Yeah, I heard. It's been a while since we've had a change in our team. One day, as fall deepened, our department was getting a new boss. Our sales manager was leaving due to maternity leave, so someone from outside was taking over. Our company, a regional manufacturer, doesn't have much turnover, especially in the sales department, so it's been a while since we welcomed someone new. My colleagues were looking forward to meeting the new boss. I'm David Anderson. I've significantly contributed to sales growth in my previous job, and I intend to do the same here. Let's all work hard to improve our numbers. David, who was a bit older than me and had a distinct elite look with his glasses, made a strong impression. He looked around at the applauding team members, including me, which boosted our morale. What concerned me a bit happened a few days later at David's welcome party at a local bar. As I approached a cheerful David Anderson, who was in high spirits with a beer in hand, he called out to me. It seemed they were talking about their hometowns. "Oh, Thomas, by the way, where are you from?" "Do you mean my high school? I joined the company right after graduating from a local high school." For a moment, David's happy expression seemed to darken. I thought they were talking about their schools, but maybe I misunderstood. "Oh, sorry, you meant where I'm from. I was born and raised in New York." "Where are you from, sir?" "Yeah, I was born in New York too, but I worked for a company in Chicago. Then I wanted to come back to a local company, so I came here. It was tough over there. Hey, waiter, another beer." When I apologized and clarified, David's cheerful demeanor returned, and he ordered another beer, making me feel relieved. He then began sharing his struggles at his previous job, and my nearby colleagues and I listened with polite smiles. The party ended on a good note, and by the next day, I had almost forgotten about the exchange. However, it seemed I hadn't imagined David's momentary change in expression. The next day, I was called into a small meeting room, and as soon as we sat down, he confronted me. "Thomas, you mentioned yesterday that you only have a high school diploma. Is that correct?" "Yes, that's right. I'm sorry for my confusing answer last night." Since there was nothing to hide and I had no regrets, I answered honestly. David Anderson sighed heavily, then clearly changed his attitude. "Well, I didn't expect to find an employee who hasn't even completed higher education. No wonder your sales numbers are struggling." His disappointed tone made me bite my lip. It wasn't that I gave the wrong answer. He didn't like that my highest education was high school. Not only are your numbers low, but having a high school graduate is embarrassing. The previous manager might have tolerated it, but I don't. I prioritize results above all. You better be prepared because I won't go easy on you. True to his word, David's attitude toward me became harsh right after this. As he mentioned in his initial address, he is all about the numbers, and the targets for my colleagues have shot up. While this approach isn't wrong, I couldn't complain as my evaluations had been based on relationships rather than numbers. However, both my colleagues and I found the increased pressure unbearable. "Sir, I'm sorry, the client said they'd consider it, but..." "Don't be stupid. This is why I can't stand high school grads. Can't you think, get another appointment immediately? Apologize and go see them tomorrow. If you can't secure it, there will be consequences." As expected, his treatment of me was particularly harsh. Though he wasn't physically violent, the pressure from his words and expressions was intense, making me feel like I had walked into a nightmare job. It wasn't just about finding new clients. I also received unreasonable orders to double the quantity for existing clients. When I called and, as expected, got rejected, David slammed his desk hard. "It's your job to make it happen. Sales are all about results. It's not about can or can't. Thomas, you will do it. Now, if you understand, get on the phone." After that, the upper management caught wind of David Anderson's aggressive tactics, and thankfully, his approach was rescinded. However, it wasn't hard to imagine that I had left a bad impression on the clients I had built good relationships with. The final straw came sometime later. Our CEO decided to retire at 65, and an employee who had long served as the head of HR was set to become the new CEO. With this change, a party to celebrate the new CEO's appointment was scheduled, and a high-end restaurant in New York was booked. The employees were thrilled about this, as it was a place we rarely got to visit, and it was the talk of the break room. "Thomas, aren't you excited? It's been really tough lately." "Yeah, let's enjoy ourselves while being careful not to make any mistakes." As my junior colleague mentioned, we've been in a whirlwind since David came on board. There hasn't been a moment of peace, and we've had to apologize to clients numerous times due to his unreasonable sales policies. So, this celebratory party at such a prestigious restaurant was something my colleagues and I were looking forward to. "Hey boss, looking forward to tomorrow." "Yeah, I hope you get to celebrate too." When I approached David during lunch break the day before, he replied with a strange smirk. Without understanding his intentions, the day of the party arrived. The company had planned an early finish, and while most people were heading to the venue directly from work, I went early due to my outside appointments. As soon as David Anderson saw me at the venue, he couldn't help but laugh and said, "The place is closed, loser. Go home." I had arrived slightly early, so the place wasn't open yet, and there's no way someone of David's rank wouldn't know the opening hours or the party's start time. His laughter from yesterday made now. Clearly, he really didn't want me to attend. But David made a crucial mistake. "Got it. I'm leaving." I felt sorry for him, but kept my expression neutral and followed his instructions. David seemed a bit taken aback by my quick retreat, but then he smirked and said, "What a waste of time. Go home, high school grad." He had no idea what was coming his way. Imagining David's future panic, I quietly left for now. Making sure no one else saw me, I quickly left the venue and caught a taxi home. It must have been about an hour after I left the venue. While I was at home catching up on housework, my phone rang loudly. Actually, my phone had been ringing non-stop since I got home, but I ignored all the calls as expected. However, I figured it was time to answer, and sure enough, it was a panicked David Anderson on the other end. "Good evening, this is Thomas." "Thomas, we can talk about the details later, but can you come back to the venue right now?" David, who had been calling me without any honorifics, suddenly reverted to a more respectful tone, completely exhausted. I smirked internally at his blatant change in attitude, pretending not to understand the situation. "What happened? Why are you so frantic?" "The new CEO has been looking for you since the party started. He's been asking, 'Where is the chairman's son?' I had no idea you were in such a position. Why didn't you tell me?" As he just mentioned, I am indeed the chairman's son. For various reasons, I kept it a secret from everyone, including David, so it's no wonder he didn't know. On top of that, I've heard you're set to be the next executive director. Honestly, it's hard to believe, but that's beside the point. Just get back to the venue. I had always planned to return to the venue, as I didn't want to inconvenience the CEO or anyone else. I decided to ask one question. "I'll come back right away, but let me ask you this. If you had known I was the chairman's son, would you have still mocked me for only having a high school diploma?" Even over the phone, I could clearly David was at a loss for words. Even though he detests high school graduates. I can imagine that David Anderson wouldn't have treated me so harshly if he had known I was the top executive's son. But that just proves he judges people based on their titles and education. After a brief silence, David spoke. "If I'd known it was your company, it wouldn't have mattered if you were a high school grad or not hitting your numbers. You would have been promised promotions anyway. I wouldn't have mocked you. It doesn't matter to me whether I'm mocked or not. Back then and even now, most employees are college graduates, and I was the only high school grad. That's why I kept it a secret that I'm the chairman's son. I deeply respect my father, the chairman. So, I didn't want my evaluations to be influenced by that perspective. Being laughed at for my education or not hitting my numbers is my responsibility. If people said, 'He can't hit numbers even though he's the chairman's son,' I'd have no defense. That's why I was surprised to be chosen as an executive. As you said, I'm not suited for sales and haven't produced significant numbers. I apologize for everything I've said. I'll even get on my knees. Just please come back." I could almost see David apologizing sincerely through the phone. But I had planned to return anyway, and I didn't want an apology at this moment. "I'm heading there now, but not because you asked. I'm going back to avoid causing trouble for everyone else, so don't misunderstand." "Got it." After saying that, I hung up and jumped into the taxi I had arranged beforehand, telling the driver the name of the restaurant. I rushed back to the party venue and arrived just in time for my speech. I was relieved that I didn't keep the new CEO, the chairman, or any of the other important guests waiting. "Thomas, over here, good luck." A female colleague from the sales department spotted me and waved, guiding me to my empty seat. She signaled the organizer, who acknowledged my presence with a relieved look. "Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to interrupt your conversations, but I'd like to invite Thomas Davis, who will be our new executive director starting tomorrow, to give a speech." The employees, who had been chatting with food and drinks in hand, all clapped in unison. When I apologized to the new CEO and said, "I'm sorry for this at your party," he patted me on the back and said, "It's your celebration too, so don't worry about it." Feeling reassured, I stood up. "Thank you for the introduction. I'm Thomas Davis. First, I'd like to sincerely congratulate our new CEO on his appointment. I'm also humbled to be starting as an executive director tomorrow." I noticed David Anderson sitting uncomfortably near my seat, looking like a different person from earlier. After all the hardship he put the department through, I couldn't help but feel a bit of satisfaction. There are two things I've kept hidden from everyone, with the company's consideration, since I joined. One is that my highest education level is a high school diploma. The other is that I am the chairman's son. Most of the employees, except those already in the know, were shocked, and the room buzzed with surprise. When I was in high school, our company was in a very tough situation. My father, the chairman, often told me how the then CEO and employees came together to turn things around. David Anderson looked at me with a startled expression. The chairman, my father, nodded slightly from the head table. When it was time for me to decide my future, the company had stabilized, and my father encouraged me to go to college. However, growing up hearing those stories from my father, I strongly wanted to learn from and work with the people who had helped the company recover. I knew that attending college would benefit me. But more than that, I wanted to learn directly from the respected employees and absorb their knowledge. I wanted to be evaluated neutrally, so I kept my father's identity hidden and used my mother's maiden name. I'm deeply grateful to the upper management for allowing me these two requests. But, David's sudden outburst drew everyone's attention to him. He quickly shut his mouth but couldn't back down and directed his doubts at me. Thomas, you haven't achieved numbers like the other employees. Plus, you didn't even go to college. Isn't this promotion because you're the chairman's son, despite not having any significant sales achievements? This was a valid concern. While I had built good relationships with clients, my numbers had always struggled. I too was surprised by this promotion. As I was about to respond, the new CEO stood up and interrupted me. Let me add something. Thomas told the chairman to always evaluate if he was suitable to lead the company in the future. If not, he said he was okay with remaining an ordinary employee or even being fired. This was what I had directly conveyed to the interviewers during my entry interview. David Anderson looked back and forth between me and the CEO, wide-eyed. Our HR department and executives have always valued personal qualities. Education and background don't matter. While results are important, we place a higher value on whether someone can communicate effectively, both inside and outside the company. So, the upper management has valued me for that. The CEO shook his head in agreement. If they valued me so highly, I had no choice but to give my best effort. Honestly, my educational background wasn't enough for an executive role. I hadn't contributed with outstanding sales results either. However, if they valued my consistent sales approach, regardless of my education and background. After a brief silence, I spoke again with determination. Having been appointed to this role, I intend to not only learn from everyone, but also give back to all of you. I will do my utmost to fulfill my duties. Thank you for your support. I thanked deeply, and the employees responded with warm applause. David, on the other hand, looked utterly defeated. The new CEO's speech went smoothly, and the party, which had various ups and downs, concluded successfully. After the party, on Monday following the weekend, David was called to HR first thing in the morning regarding the incident at the restaurant. I was also asked to attend as I was directly involved. Listening to the conversation, I started to understand the background that led to his actions. David Anderson was previously assigned to a highly results-oriented sales department. In that workplace, the number of contracts was everything. It had a competitive, sports-like atmosphere, and many employees had joined right after high school. Most of the struggling employees were high school graduates, while only a few college graduates, including David, were successful. One statement David made in response to an HR employee's question stuck with me. It was a place where education was compensated by results, and if you didn't get numbers, there was no point in working. That's why I couldn't accept that Thomas, a high school graduate with low contract numbers, was promoted. David had achieved remarkable success at his previous job and decided to switch companies, bringing his impressive track record with him. Our company hired him to bring new energy to a sales department that hadn't seen much change in years. However, his prejudice against education and obsession with results caused discord within the department and strained relationships with several key clients. But I caused significant trouble for the company and our clients. I also wronged you and the sales team. No, I also learned something important. Evaluating each employee is challenging, and if results aren't achieved, innovation and effort are necessary. David, you reminded me of that. I will strive to continue improving without arrogance. When I explained, he softened a bit and replied, I see. Before leaving the room, David was later relieved of his position and reassigned to a sales office in New York. Now, I hear he works modestly as a driver. The joint inquiry with David Anderson made for a chaotic start to the week, but today was also my first day as an executive. Upon arriving at work, a senior colleague from the sales department greeted me at the entrance. He's a veteran who has supported our company since the difficult times. "Good morning, Executive Thomas. Today's the big day." "Oh, I guess I can't speak casually anymore. Good morning." "Good morning, please. Don't say that. There's still so much I want to learn from you." After sharing a laugh and parting ways with my senior colleague, I steeled myself for the day ahead. My priority is to rebuild and strengthen relationships with clients who have continued to support us. Even though my role has changed, my commitment remains the same. I will continue to value the connections with those who appreciate our company and me. I will stay humble, reflecting and growing continuously. As an executive, I aim to give back as much as I've received from this company.